Blue shadow under the moon, knife like the wind. Chapter 1, The Hidden Army. The desert frontier, the wind and sand are raging, and the blood-colored dawn illuminates this endless wasteland. In the barracks, the soldiers were practicing, and the sound of swords and horns came and went, filling every inch of air. Far from the imperial capital, this place was once a corner hidden in the long river of history, but now it has become the home of countless soldiers. Among them, the most eye-catching is the tall young man, Shen Kyungzi. His figure always appears at the forefront, commanding the team, shuttling through the light and shadow of swords. When night fell, many recruits whispered about the young general, who no one knew who he really was, but who they all knew was that he was not only a skilled martial artist, but also a resourceful man, and quickly became one of the most respected leaders in the army. However, Shen Kyungzi's true identity is completely different from what everyone imagined. She is actually a woman named Chu Yunyi. Her parents died early, her family was beheaded in the court battle, and she was exiled to the frontier since she was a child, with no one to rely on. With her extraordinary intelligence and martial arts, she pretended to be a young Shen Kyungzi and blended into the army, starting from a miscellaneous soldier, until today, she has become the most outstanding pioneer in the army. Several years of swords have honed her character, and also made her isolated from the world. No one in her heart can understand and no one can rely on. She gradually found her presence in blood and fire, and thus made great achievements. However, after a battle to break the enemy one day, she is brought back to her family by a mysterious messenger, turning her fortunes upside down. Chapter 2, Family Reappearance. Early one morning, when Chu Yunyi was training in the barracks, he suddenly received an urgent report from an attendant. "General, someone is looking for you." She was shocked, and her intuition told her that this was not a trivial matter. She washed off her sweat, changed into a general's attire, and followed her attendants to the outside of the camp. It was a middle-aged man dressed in a fancy costume with a good face. There was a bit of deep and worry in his eyes, and when he saw Chu Yunyi, he bowed and saluted, but his tone trembled slightly. "General, can you remember me?" Chu Yunyi frowned slightly, recalling his past experiences, but he still couldn't connect this person with his own memories. The man seemed to sense her confusion, and whispered, "I am Chu Taishu, a member of the Chu family, and you? As the sole heir of the family, your parents have kept you hidden from the chaos of the world to protect the family lineage." Hearing this, Chu Yunyi was shocked in her heart. It turned out that his long-lost family still existed, and this man was a loyal servant of the family. He brought news of the family and told her that she was already the only heir to the family, and that the fate of the family rested on her shoulders once again. However, Chu Yunyi knew that she could not return to the delicate woman she was in the past. She is a pioneer in the army, and she is burdened with too much honor, disgrace, and responsibility. How can she easily let go of all this? But the family's momentum is huge, and the Chu family was once one of the most powerful nobles in the court, and perhaps if she returns, she will be able to have a fresh start. Chapter 3, Bloody Mary. After returning to Chu's house, Chu Yunyi found that everything here was completely different from what she imagined. The composer was not as glorious as she expected, but full of calculation and deceit. She soon realized that there was a huge difference between this place and the stories she had heard before she had traveled into a Mary Sue novel that had already been circulated. In this novel, the male protagonist Ling Tingyu is a peerless genius, handsome, resourceful, and in the story, he seems to have a soft spot for her, a life-saving benefactor who has never met. In the novel, it is described how Ling Tingyu was rescued by her because of a battle and regarded her as the only love of her heart. However, according to the plot of the novel, Chu Yunyi found that her appearance was not as glorious as she expected, but instead became the eternal white moonlight lover in Ling Tingyu's heart, an illusion that she could not touch or have. To make matters worse, the female supporting role in the novel turns out to bear a striking resemblance to her. The white moonlight character not only has the same appearance as her, but also the beauty who is deeply loved by the male protagonist. Whenever Ling Tingyu mentioned Chu Yunyi's name, she was always affectionate, but she constantly overlapped with the image of white moonlight. All this put Chu Yunyi in an unprecedented predicament. How she breaks the shackles of this novel is the problem she really needs to face. Chapter 4, The Mirror of Identity. Chu Yunyi decided that she would no longer be the woman at the mercy of fate no matter what. Her life will never be a supporting role for anyone. She begins to secretly gather clues, dig into the hidden plots of the novel, and explore the hidden truths. She discovers that the Ling Tingyu in the novel is not a real hero, but a pawn who is manipulated by fate and power. His love story is not true love, but a disguise for political purposes. In Ling Tingyu's heart, there is a deeper conspiracy, and the ending of all this will point to an even more unimaginable ending. Chu Yunyi is determined to break all this, and begins to strategize, so that she is no longer the female partner waiting for redemption, but the master who controls her own destiny. Her experience in the army made her understand that only by being strong can she not be swayed by others. She no longer looked forward to the redemption of love, but used her wisdom and strength to change the direction of the whole story, and even began to silently lead Ling Tingyu to the true fate he should have. Chapter 5, Rebirth and Awakening. At the end of the story, the fate of Chu Yanyi and Ling Tingyu is no longer bound together in the Mary Sue plot, but a contest about love, power, and self-rebirth. She is no longer the woman who was tricked by fate, but has become the master of her own destiny. Chapter 6, Hidden Schemes. With Chu Yanyi's gradual rise in the Chu family, she finds that she is not the only one caught in the network of power schemes. Ling Tingyu's real enemies were not only external enemies, but also countless factions from within the court. Every courtier, every nobleman, has unknown schemes and ambitions. They fight on the surface, but behind the scenes, they secretly join forces and form an unknown alliance. Chu Yanyi quickly realized that if he wanted not to be consumed in this conspiracy, he must have his own foundation. She learns from her experience in the barracks and learns how to survive in this aristocratic circle full of undercurrents. She began to seek to forge alliances with those who had not yet been corrupted, gradually consolidating her power base. In the process, she got acquainted with a young man named Ye Chengqing. Ye Chengqing is a distant relative of the Chu family, with a delicate appearance and a tough heart. His status is not prominent, but he has won the trust of some old ministers. Ye Chengqing is very knowledgeable and has a unique insight into the operation of politics, which complements Chu Yanyi's resourcefulness. He became Chu Yanyi's right-hand man in the court. With Ye Chengqing's help, Chu Yanyi began to gradually mobilize the forces in the court to fight for more rights for himself. She no longer relied solely on the strength of the military, but set her sights on a more far-reaching political stage. She skillfully steered old allies back together and found new forces to woo. But all this has also attracted more hostility. Chu Yanyi's actions have aroused the jealousy of many people, especially those veteran ministers who once had a place in the court. They could not tolerate a newly rising woman who could use her wisdom and means to threaten their interests in a short period of time. Chapter 7, Shadow of the Enemy. In this power struggle, Chu Yanyi is no longer a simple outsider. Every step she made was watched by countless pairs of eyes. What scared her the most was a woman named Han Hanyan. Han Hanyan is a very powerful lady in the court, born in an old family, with a strong political background. Her father was a prominent minister of the dynasty, and she herself had countless followers. Han Hanyan's beauty is unparalleled, and she is very intelligent, and many officials have a love for her. She is scheming, always planning how to climb to the top of power. For Chu Yanyi, Han Hanyan is undoubtedly her biggest threat. She had heard that Han Hanyan had secretly had contacts with some foreign forces, and if she continued to grow her power, she was afraid that it would put the Chu family and Ling Tingyu's regime in danger. Chu Yanyi knew that in order to break this situation, he needed to eliminate this powerful opponent first. However, Chu Yanyi also knew that the attack on Han Hanyan was not something that could be easily successful. Han Hanyan did not have a direct conflict with Chu Yanyi on the surface, but behind every smile and every banquet, there were countless schemes hidden. So, Chu Yanyi began to observe Han Hanyan's behavior, trying to find her weaknesses. She found that Han Hanyan's appearance was as gentle as water, but she was very good at controlling others behind her back, shaping herself into an impeccable beauty. She always shows her amiable appearance in the court, but behind her is step by step. But Chu Yanyi was not deceived by her appearance, and she began to secretly dispatch her henchmen to record Han Hanyan's actions one by one. She found that Han Hanyan had tried to win over some important generals many times in recent years, and used this to enhance his influence in the army. Chu Yanyi had heard of this for a long time, but now she has determined the real plan behind her. Chapter 8, The Mystery of the White Moonlight. Over time, Chu Yanyi gradually gained more power and succeeded in unraveling the intricate relationship between her and Ling Tingyu. Ling Tingyu's feelings for her can't be as simple as those described in the novel after all. In Ling Tingyu's heart, although there was Chu Yanyi's figure, what was deeper was the unresolved grievance in his own heart. The love between Ling Tingyu and Bai Yueguang is not as pure as she imagined. Chu Yanyi found that in Ling Tingyu's heart, there was still a deeply buried past. This past involved Ling Tingyu's parents, and was even closely related to some unsolved murder cases in the court. Ling Tingyu inadvertently revealed that the memory of Bai Yueguang in his heart was not out of simple love, but a kind of guilt and responsibility. He couldn't let go of that past, which also made his relationship with Chu Yanyi not as simple as she hoped. After learning all this, Chu Yanyi's mood changed subtly. She no longer longs for the so-called love with Ling Tingyu, but has learned how to control her own destiny in this ocean of power and no longer rely on anyone. She begins to delve deeper into the roles she has played in the past and is determined to break the shackles of this Mary Sue novel once and for all. It's not just a struggle for love, it's a tough challenge for self-awareness and growth. Chapter 9, The Finale, The Wheel of Fate. In the end, Chu Yanyi chose to face the impending crisis with Ling Tingyu. She is no longer the woman who turned her back on her family to escape her fate, nor is she the white moonlight who let go of herself for love. She became the master of her own destiny and was no longer at the mercy of anyone. As she solved the mysteries step by step, Chu Yanyi finally understood a truth: fate is never written by others, but decided by herself. She broke the shackles of the past and stepped out of her own future. Ling Tingyu stood beside her, and the love and responsibility she had finally been replaced by reason. Together, they faced not only the sinister of the court, but also the invasion of foreign enemies. The two joined forces to integrate the forces of the Chu family and the Ling family, forming a powerful alliance. Eventually, their fate is no longer easily controlled by anyone. In that final battle of blood and fire, Chu Yanyi not only defended the glory of the family, but also rewrote the pattern of the whole world.